Honde onde engote ba oi kale-san. Hello, my name is Tonkiai. My people have lived here on Mother Earth for many thousands of years. We lived on a land we never thought to own. For no one can own Mother Earth. It's like the sun and the stars and the moon. No one can own the stars, the sun and the moon. The same with Mother Earth. There are creatures here on Mother Earth thanks to the planning of our Great Spirit. They live in harmony. They are balanced according to where they live. Their existence gives a great lesson to you and I and other people, for they have been here for millions and millions of years, and the key word is balance. Nature is balanced because nature is here for not only the creatures, but for you and I. The wind is even helpful in bringing about this balance of nature, for the wind cleanses the air, and the wind spreads the seeds to a favorable spot where there is good moisture. And when this seed fertilizes, it comes up, and it's a new plant or a new tree that our creatures make use of. And after the creatures are through making use of this vegetation, it goes back to Mother Earth. The sun, the air, the water, and the soil work together to create an environment to where the plants grow and the creatures survive. Listen to my stories. Messenger Eagle, we ask for you to bring thanks from the people to the Great Spirit because He is closest to you. Thanks for the water, the air, and the trees, and how the people here are trying to live the way that is in harmony with nature. Thank you, Great Spirit, for Grandfather Sun and his healthful rays and the light and the air that warms the land. Many years ago, when the world was young, the antelope wore his beautiful branched antlers. He lived in flat desert country with hardly any vegetation, except maybe for some cactus. Cousin Deer lived in the forest, thick with rolling hills, trees. They played together often. One day, Cousin Deer came to visit Cousin Antelope, and they played their games, and it came around to where they wanted to see who could run the fastest. So they had a race. Cousin Antelope ran swiftly and surely across the plains. The hot sand did not bother him as it did the deer. Antelope was used to the terrain and won the race easily. It didn't work that well with Cousin Deer. For one thing, the sand was too hot on his hoofs, and the air was too hot, so he lost the race. Time passed, and Cousin Antelope went to visit Cousin Deer, and again they played their games. And all of a sudden, Cousin Antelope said, "Let's have a race and see who will win this time," because he was still very satisfied in winning the first race. And so Cousin Deer said, "All right," because he was in his part of the country, his own wooded terrain. And so Cousin Antelope felt so good about beating him the last time they raced that he said, "I will bet you my antlers that I can beat you." And right away, Cousin Deer said, "That's okay with me," because he admired the antlers. So they raced, and sure enough, Cousin Deer knew exactly where to run. Over the rocks, through the brush, down the trails as fast as he could. He ran and ran and ran fast and sure. But it was different with Cousin Antelope. He didn't know the trail, he didn't know the terrain, and of course he lost. Well, in the end, Cousin Antelope said, "You won fair and square, so I give you my antlers." And to this day, Cousin Deer wears the antlers with pride, and he feels good. There once was a great chief. His name was Chief Seattle. He and his people lived in the far northwest corner of the United States. When the government came to buy land that he and his people called home, these were some of his words. "My mother told me that every part of this earth is sacred to our people. Every pine needle, every sandy shore, every mist in the dark woods, every meadow and humming insect, all are holy to the memory of our people." My father said to me, "I know the sap that courses through the trees as I know the blood that flows through my veins. We are a part of the earth, and the earth is a part of us. The perfumed flowers are our sisters. The bear, the deer, the great eagle, they are brothers. The rocky crests, the meadows, the ponies, all belong to the same family." The voice of my ancestors said to me, "The shining waters that move in the streams and rivers is not simply water, but the blood of your grandfather's grandfather. Each ghostly reflection in the clear waters of the lakes tells of memories in the life of our people." The voice of my grandfather said, "The air is precious. It shares its spirit with all the life it supports. The wind that gave me my first breath also received my last sigh. You must keep the land and air apart and sacred as a place where we can go to taste the wind that is sweetened by the meadow flowers. This we know, all things are connected, like the blood that unites us. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves." One day, many years ago, the raven was creating a lake and building a tree when all of a sudden he heard a noise in the sky, and he looked up, and it was the geese who were flying to the south because winter was setting in. It only reminded Raven that he was very alone, that he had no one to fly with or to work with. 2 days later, another flock of geese was coming by, going south, and it was a lucky day for Raven because the geese decided to land where Raven was. And Raven talked to them. He said, "Can I go with you? Can I fly with you?" And right away they said, "No, you're a raven. You're inadequate. You cannot fly as we fly." So the raven said, "But I'm in love with Sister Goose and I want to marry her." Sister Goose family said, "Well, you'll have to prove yourself." So he was allowed to fly with them. They took off the next morning, and right away Raven flew circles around the flock of geese. But after a while he became weary, very, very tired. He was so happy when the geese decided to land on a lake that he created and to spend the night. So they landed, and all night long the raven was so uncomfortable because he was not used to the water. Early the next morning, the flock took off again, and Raven was twice as tired because he got no sleep the night before. And here they came to the great mountain. And as they approached the mountain, the raven thought for sure that he could not make it, but he made it over the ridge. And as he made it over the ridge, he began to fall. He was so tired. And the geese let him fall because they thought, "He's a raven. He has no business with us." And they went on flying to the warm country to the south. And as the raven hit the ground, he thought, I have no business with the geese. I am here where I was in the first place, on the warm side of the mountain. To this day, you almost never see a raven in the cold caribou country.